close relationship in the aerospace field for more than 50 years. And NASA and JAXA have been collaborating in many fields, including earth science, space exploration, human space activities, and aeronautics. Astronaut Noguchi participates in the Crew-1 mission as the first foreign astronaut on board a U.S. commercial spacecraft. This shows a trust relationship between the two countries. We recognize that this mission is an important milestone toward future international space exploration, and we will firmly support him from the ground.
Thank you very much. Could you tell us a little bit more about today's mission and what the mission represents for Noguchi-san?
Well, as the first Japanese astronaut on board 3 different spacecraft, Space Shuttle, Soyuz, and Crew Dragon, I'm sure he will play an outstanding role based on past experiences. Experiments on the ISS are expected to contribute to the advancement of people's lives on Earth. Protein crystal growth experiments in microgravity environment may lead to the development of new medicine. Japanese private companies are also getting to use the experiment module Kibo for the initiatives. We expect that we'll round the utilization of Kibo. Thank you.
Thank you. And last question, looking a little bit towards the future. I know recently Japan, along with 7 other countries, including the United States, recently signed the Artemis Accords. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Artemis Accords and what that means for future space exploration?
Well, last month in October, the Japanese government signed the Artemis Accords, representing the strong partnership as one of the first countries to join in the future international space exploration. Well, I think Japan has expertise in human and robotic space technologies accumulated through our experiences, TV, and HIABSA 2. And we continue to move forward with technical considerations with NASA and other international partners. In addition to the field of human spaceflight, we will continue and deepen our cooperation with NASA and our international partners in order to explore the new era of space and contribution to our society on Earth. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. Arigato gozaimashita. Thank you for your time this morning, and I'll pass it back to you, Tahira. Thank you.
All right, so we just took a look at numbers across all of our social channels, and there are over 500,000 people tuning into this broadcast right now. And the hashtag #LaunchAmerica is trending at number 20 on Twitter, last time we checked. And Marie, Kate, Nicole, I've got some great photos rolling in, and I have a few that I just have to share right now. So take a look at this first one. We've got this little explorer asking if there's room for one more on the mission.
Aww. I love it.
I know. Let's go to the next one.
We are live.
We've seen so many cute space pups today, and this corgi and its little NASA onesie is just the icing on the cake.
Yes.
I can't get enough space dogs, so.
With special
okay, let's go next.
Astronaut.
How incredible is this little patriotic astronaut holding the flag? Now, y'all, this one definitely made me pretty emotional in the first time I saw.
Tell us a bit more about what's going on today.
Okay, last one.
So we've got
Check out how awesome Kiana looks in her blue flight suit, and I mean, wishing her hero, Victor Glover, well on his Launch America mission. So you've seen it there, and for those of you at home, thank you for sharing a piece of what this mission means to you with us. And in these final moments, let's check in with Shaniqua at Mission Control in Houston.
So we are connected with NASA, and we are a few minutes away for the launch. So let's see what's going on.
The space station team here in Houston
together.
is focused, and critical systems on the station continue to function normally. The teams have verified the command path from the ground up through the constellation of communication satellites to the station. Everything is nominal, and the station will be ready to receive Dragon tomorrow. NASA Flight Director Anthony Varia has been leading the operations planning between the joint NASA and SpaceX teams for the Crew-1 mission. And with the mission about to begin, he passed along this to the teams. No matter the spacecraft, our jobs remain the same. We will protect the crew, we will protect the vehicle, and we will perform our mission. We remain tough and competent. We operate with resilience. Anthony and team are on console here in Mission Control for launch and will be back tomorrow for docking. A reminder that a launch today will take about 27.5 hours to get to station, docking Monday to the Node 2 forward port scheduled at 10 p.m.
So Catherine, let's say again what's going on today.
Yes, so today is a historic launch from SpaceX. This is the first crewed operational flight of a Space Dragon spacecraft. And that means this is the first operational flight from the Commercial Crew program, which is a program operated by private aerospace industries like Boeing and SpaceX that will be sending humans to Mars, not to Mars necessarily, to the moon, into the International Space Station, into the future. So it's the new future of space travel happening.
I know we're going to be turning our attention solely to the pad and going over to Hawthorne to take us through the final count. But one thing that really stuck out to me earlier, and I wanted to mention, when Shannon was talking about her path to becoming an astronaut, she talked about how she was 4 years old when she decided that that's what I want to do. And it really stuck out to me because my 4-year-old daughter is watching and she's dreaming about becoming an astronaut. And it's so special for, I think, especially for little girls, maybe I'm biased, but to be able to have a role model like Shannon and like you, Nicole, because at the time when Shannon was 4 years old, women weren't astronauts. And what an amazing time to be in when little girls have women to look up to, and African-American children have Victor Glover to look up to and see that, they're represented and they can do this too.
Yeah, and I think NASA and the world of space exploration, from the human spaceflight side for sure, has been, over the years just so progressive in understanding how this diversity is so important. And I love thinking about your 4-year-old daughter watching launch tonight and being excited about this. And I'm thankful to be here tonight with you two ladies kind of representing.
I'm super excited. I have seen SpaceX launches before. I've seen shuttle launches before, but I've never been this close to the launch pad. And my palms are sweaty with excitement. And it's going to be incredible. Night launches here, they just light up the sky. And so I'm super excited, and I can't even imagine, I think a lot about Victor Glover this evening, because as we said before, this is his first time going to space. He has thousands of hours as a test pilot, like a super impressive resume, and this is his first time going to space, and I'm so excited for him to be part of this mission and get to go to the ISS after a long wait.
Yeah, and that is a beautiful destination. Let me just tell you that the four of them are going to do amazing work there. And it's been mentioned a couple times before, this partnership that we have that's allowing us to do such incredible things that are just ultimately about improving life on Earth.
Absolutely. Cool. And Nicole, I think it's worth mentioning, we didn't talk about this earlier, and I know you are a very humble person and you're focused on the crew that's on the pad right now, but you are the last resident International Space Station crew member to launch from and then land back on U.S. soil. So I think that's significant.
Yeah, as a shuttle crew member, and it's kind of weird to think that was that long ago. But I don't think any crew members goes into it thinking about what first or last it is. Yeah. But I'll tell you, having worked at Kennedy Space Center for 10 years as a NASA engineer, and to be able to, support a mission like that and be here watching this tonight, really historic event, this is the place where we learn, that there is a solution to every challenging problem. And in the words of a person I mentioned earlier, Mr. Honeycutt, here's how we can, not why we can't. And that's what we saw go on tonight as well.
Absolutely. And with T-minus 15 minutes, 10 seconds and counting to liftoff, we want to focus in on the pad as we proceed through the final stretch of the countdown. We will turn it over to Hawthorne to take us through launch at 7:27 this evening, Eastern Time. John?
Thanks, Marie. As Marie mentioned, everything is looking good for launch of Falcon 9 and Dragon. It's going to come at 27 minutes and 17 seconds after the hour, just a little under 15 minutes from now. We began propellant loading on Falcon 9 on time at T-minus 35 minutes. You may have heard earlier the call out, the fuel is completely loaded on the second stage. So the RP1 kerosene fuel is complete. We also got the start right on time 2 minutes ago of liquid oxygen loading onto the second stage. Now on the first stage that you can see with the white plumes coming off of it, fuel loading is continuing. We're about half complete with fuel load. That'll finish in 8 minutes at T-6. Now densified oxygen, the liquid oxygen, continues to load on the first stage. That'll come down and finish about T-3 minutes. And then, as I mentioned, the second stage has just begun liquid oxygen loading just 2.5 minutes ago. That will continue all the way down to T-2 minutes. Now, currently, eastern range is go. Everything continues to look good. And the weather, as we said, has continued to cooperate. You can talk about it. You can't do much about it. But tonight, it looks like all conditions are good on the weather. And finally, Dragon. The Dragon mission director and team, they are reporting no issues. They've completed the communication checkouts earlier in the countdown. You can see the crew access arm is retracted away. What you have left now is just the strong back alongside of Dragon you can see on your monitors. We have armed the launch escape system. The crew is strapped in and they are ready to go. Their next major event's coming up at T-10 minutes. They're going to get final instructions relayed to them. The crew displays will be configured for launch, and that allows the crew to get insight into how launch is proceeding and provides constant updates on vehicle health to.
Catherine, are you excited about this?
I'm so excited. This is so. Launches are always so amazing to watch happen, especially the SpaceX launches, because a lot of the machinery is reusable. Like the Resilience spacecraft that they're in right now is actually going to be reused for future missions.
And there are 12 minutes to go, and it seems that everything is going to be right.
Yeah, I hope
so. Let's keep watching together. This is such an exciting moment.
For the countdown, as we head for liftoff again, 27 minutes, 17 seconds after the hour.
That's right, John. It's exciting. Only 12 minutes, 13 seconds until liftoff now. And just some things that you can look for, especially upon ascent. You'll be hearing some performance calls as we get into the final countdown and then after liftoff. These are SpaceX flight controllers. They're reporting the trajectory, the speed, the booster performance, and some of the key milestones for Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon on the way uphill. It's about a 9-minute ride to orbit, and a few minutes after that is when we'll see Crew Dragon separate from the second stage and begin flying free on its own. Some of those other calls you'll hear upon liftoff are number and letter combinations. These mark different abort zones throughout the flight. The first two are 1A and 1B. This signifies they're in the first stage, and that will last until they're up to the very north of North Carolina. The next are 2A through 2E or 2 Echo. Those will come into play once the second stage kicks in. That lasts from the top of North Carolina all the way to the tip of Newfoundland in the Northern Atlantic. There's also a spot we want to avoid in the Northern Atlantic, and so you might hear the call Shannon or forward to Shannon. Of course, that's not to be confused with our crew member Shannon Walker today, but that actually refers to Shannon, Ireland. It means they would target off the coast of Ireland if they were later in that second stage and needed to abort. But that next call out we're listening for to the crew should come up at T-10 minutes that the crew displays. Those 3 panels in front of our astronauts will be configured for launch. Now just 10 minutes and 35 seconds to go until liftoff.
This is so exciting. 10 minutes to go.
Yes, 10 minutes. I can't wait. It must be so scary being in
also,
that
as John I mentioned, that stage 2 fuel load is complete. Stage 1 is at about 90%. Liquid oxygen load on the second stage is about 40%, and on the first stage about 85%.
Dragon, SpaceX, confirm crew displays are configured for launch.
And SpaceX, this is Dragon. Displays are configured for launch.
Copy, Resilience. We're honored to have you as our crew as we begin operational missions to the ISS. Have an amazing trip, and know that we are all for one.
Thanks, Jay. And to all the people at NASA and SpaceX, by working together through these difficult times, you've inspired the nation, the world, and in no small part, the name of this incredible vehicle, Resilience. And now it's time for us to do our part, Crew-1 for all.
Copy all. Thanks, Hopper.
That was the voice of Commander Mike Hopkins confirming those crew displays are configured, and that T-minus 10 minutes was another check for the Falcon 9 launch commit criteria. It was checked by some computers. It was the last check of a wide variety of the Falcon system data to make sure we are go. From here on, we continue to count down until T-minus 7 minutes when the pre-valves open.
T-minus 8 minutes, 30 seconds and counting. As Liam mentioned, the next major event at T-minus 7 minutes, we will open the pre-valves. Currently, the Merlin engines on the first stage are isolated by valves that are between the propellant tanks and with the Merlin engines. We'll open the pre-valves. That'll allow us to begin passing a small amount of liquid oxygen through the inlet of the turbo pumps. That'll chill them down to get them ready for when we bring the pumps up to full speed at T-minus 2 seconds. We want to make sure that the pumps are chilled so that there's not any opportunity for the liquid oxygen to possibly get in contact with a warm pump and turn into gas, something you want to avoid on a turbo pump.
7 minutes and 40 seconds now to lift off. We're still watching those fuel levels tick up, and in the first stage, we're almost at 100% of that densified kerosene. As we mentioned, second stage is full. First stage fueling.
Tell me, Catherine, how are you feeling right now? 7 minutes to go.
I always get nervous. It's a nervous excitement. I just want everything to go well, and I want them to make it up there okay. But this is so exciting, especially when the countdown starts and we start ticking closer. How are you feeling?
Standing by for pre-valve opening.
Oh, I'm super excited, and I cannot wait to see that liftoff moment when everything goes well and they are up.
And there's the call out. Stage 1 engine chill has started. Indicates that we are opening the pre-valves. Liquid oxygen now beginning to flow slowly through the turbo pumps on the Merlin 1D first stage engines.
Next call out should be in about 30 seconds from now. We'll be looking for stage 1 RP load complete. That's the densified kerosene, that fuel on the first stage, already full on the second stage, and we'll still be loading liquid oxygen up until about 2 minutes prior to liftoff on the second stage. Standing by for that fuel call.
Stage 1 fuel load is complete.
Okay, right on time, and a great view of Dragon sitting on top of the Falcon 9 as we're continuing to load liquid oxygen onto both the first and second stages. The RP1 kerosene fuel is now completely loaded on both stage 1 and stage 2. All continues to go well, just under 6 minutes to launch.
In about 30 seconds, we'll enter terminal count, and Dragon's onboard computers will take control of the vehicle. Both fuel on first and second stage is complete, and liquid oxygen loading continues with the second stage at about 80%, first stage at 95%. Something else you might notice is water rushing the pad shortly before liftoff. That's to suppress the sound and keep any sound from imparting a load on Crew Dragon as it prepares to lift off.
Dragon is in configure for terminal count. Dragon is on internal power. Falcon 9 propellant tanks are pressurizing for strongback retract.
Good confirmation that Dragon is on internal power, And now we'll be looking for a major milestone before we launch today. That'll be the strong back retract. John, you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Leah, if we get a close-up of the Dragon at second stage.
Strong back is retracting.
We've heard the call out, strong back retracting. That's a two-step sequence. First, there are clamp arms around the very top of the second stage. You can see one of them just above the gaseous oxygen vapors coming out of the second stage. Those arms will open up, and then just inside of T-minus 4 minutes, once the arms are released, we'll begin to retract the strong back alongside the vehicle. It'll move back 2 degrees in position, and by about T-minus 3.5 minutes, we ought to be finished with that. The strong back will retract to 45 degrees away from the rocket once we hit T0 as part of the liftoff sequence.
And at T-minus 3 minutes, we'll
Right now, we're waiting for the retract. And there you can see the strong back is beginning to move away from the vehicle. And it looks like we are just about into the required pre-launch position, just a couple of degrees away from the Falcon 9 and the Dragon capsule. But right now, T-minus 3 minutes, 8 seconds, everything continues to be go on Dragon and Falcon 9.
Currently standing.
Dragon is in terminal count.
And Dragon is in terminal count, and we are standing by to hear that Stage 1 liquid oxygen loading is complete. Stage
1 LOX load is complete.
And there we have it, and Stage 2 should finish shortly after at about 2 minutes prior to liftoff.
So now the last major event is finished liquid oxygen loading on Stage 2. It wraps up at about T-minus 2 minutes. Then at about T-minus a minute and a half, we have to drain back and vent down the liquid line that goes up the strong back alongside the Falcon 9. If you see a large white cloud about midway down around the rocket, that's normal. That's, again, just the gaseous oxygen hitting the warm, moist Florida air.
This is so exciting.
This is so exciting. Look at that amazing view. I love that.
It's so special and stunning, and to see what humankind can do when they get together.
Absolutely.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
Less than 2 minutes.
Dragon is in auto idle.
And good calls that Stage 2 liquid oxygen load is complete. That means we have full fuel on the first and second stages, that densified kerosene, and we're full of the oxidizer. Liquid oxygen on the first and second stage as well. Now just 1 minute and 20 seconds until liftoff today. And as you can hear those sounds, like Soichi Noguchi said, the vehicle is alive. Coming up in 10 seconds, we'll look to hear that Dragon is in countdown and Falcon 9 is in startup.
Dragon is in countdown. FTS is armed. Falcon 9 is in startup and is now controlling.
50 seconds now until liftoff. That FTS you heard is flight termination.
Dragon, SpaceX, go for launch.
Go for launch.
SpaceX, this is Resilient. Roger, go.
Go for launch, and at 37 seconds, the International Space Station flying over Kennedy Space Center.
All for one, Crew-1 for all.
Crew Dragon poised to go catch it. 20 seconds till liftoff.
Oh, let's count.
T-minus 15 seconds. Falcon 9 is configured for flight. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition.
And resilience rises. Not even gravity contains humanity when we explore as one for all. That's the word we want to hear. Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Plus 30 seconds into this historic mission, flying Crew on board Dragon and Falcon 9. Stage 1 is preparing to throttle down. This is in preparation for max Q, which is maximum aerodynamic pressure.
Stage 1, throttle down.
There's that call out for throttle down.
Power and telemetry continue to be nominal for the vehicle, now traveling at 262 meters per second.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
There's that call out. The Falcon 9 is supersonic, and we will be passing through max Q here shortly, the largest structural load during ascent.
Max Q.
There's that call out. That Falcon has passed through max Q.
1 Bravo.
And we've just entered Stage 1 Bravo abort mode. That's going to take them through the end of the first stage burning just before second stage activates off the coast of North Carolina. T+1 minute and 40 seconds into flight, Dragon and Falcon 9 traveling 709 meters per second. That call that MVAC chill is underway, the Merlin vacuum engine.
Now with the call out of MVAC de-chilling, similar to what we saw in the first stage Merlin engines, the second stage engine being prepared for its ignition coming up in just over 30 seconds from now. We're a half a minute away from 3 quick events in rapid succession. We're going to get main engine cut off. The 9 Merlin engines will throttle down and then shut down. We're going to get stage separation.
Stage 1, throttle down.
And then ignition of the second stage engine. We've begun the throttle down in preparation for stage separation.
And we have
2 Alpha.
Stage separation confirmed. That's what the positional signal.
And you see that stage separation has confirmed. There goes that MVAC engine. Stage 2. Crew-1 is now on their way to the International Space Station. On the right side of your screen, you see Stage 2 continuing to burn. Over on the left-hand side is Stage 1 preparing for its return to Earth.
Currently on the left side, you can't make out much. It's a couple hours after sunset in Florida, but the grid fins have deployed on the first stage. The first stage is now unpowered, but with the velocity it had, it continues to coast up to an apogee before it begins to descend back into Earth's atmosphere. Now, as we watch, maybe we'll see the lights of Florida or the eastern seaboard in the background, but otherwise, there's not going to be much to see. On the right-hand side,
Dragon, SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
You can hear the call out. Trajectory is nominal.
Nominal trajectory.
And we've heard the call out Bermuda. That means Bermuda ground station has the signals from the second stage of the Dragon and Falcon 9.
We're still continuing as Stage 2 burns to listen for those abort zones. We are now in 2A through 2E to Echo, taking us up over the northern Atlantic.
Right now you can see the second stage engine glowing with the standard red that we have come to see over all these missions. Indicates everything's looking good. Power on the MVAC-D engine continues to run at 220,000 pounds of thrust in the vacuum of outer space.
Dragon, SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
And trajectory nominal.
Nominal trajectory.
And we hear the reply from the crew acknowledging we have a nominal trajectory. Dragon made it to the Falcon 9 second stage, heading into the low Earth orbit, where Dragon will then separate and begin its trip the rest of the way to the space station.
We'll be looking for SECO, second stage engine cutoff, coming up at 8 minutes and 48 seconds after launch today. So about 3.5 minutes from now, Dragon and Falcon 9, second stage, currently flying 2,979 meters per second.
Now, currently, the first stage has begun its descent. It is through apogee. It's beginning to come back down, where it, coming up in another couple of minutes, we will have the entry burn, where we begin to slow down the first stage.
SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
Copy, nominal trajectory.
Another call out, another nominal trajectory, just what we love to hear.
That voice you're hearing on board Dragon, that's Commander Mike Hopkins speaking for our 4-person crew as they continue their journey now 6 minutes and 12 seconds after liftoff. Trajectory still nominal.
And Leah, you can see on the indicator altitude, 201 kilometers. We're now beginning to essentially level out and pick up velocity to get us into low Earth orbit. We're a little under 1 minute from the ignition for the entry burn on first stage.
And we're about 2 minutes away.
Dragon, SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
Copy, nominal trajectory.
Great news, now 7 minutes after launch. Second stage engine continues to burn, everything looking good. And we'll see that continue to burn for another 1 minute and about 38 seconds.
Right now on stage 2, the crew's getting about a little more than 2.5 G's of acceleration. First stage preparing to ignite for the entry burn.
Stage 2 FTS has saved.
And we've got ignition of the entry burn, center engine, followed by the other 2 restart engines. First stage now getting ready to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. This is about a 29-second burn, and it's designed to slow the vehicle way down. We're going to shed about 70% of the velocity of that dropping first stage by the time this landing burn completes. I should say by the time the entry burn completes, which is now over. First stage on target for the drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. Meanwhile, we're watching second stage getting close to getting into orbit.
That's right, we've got about 30
Stage
seconds
2
more.
internal guidance.
And now just about 20 seconds more of stage 2 continuing to burn until we see second stage engine cutoff, or SECO. We'll coast for a few minutes afterward to allow the rates in motion to...
Roger,
there,
Shannon.
There's that call for Shannon. That's Shannon, Ireland, an abort zone, but it looks like we continue smoothly orbit today.
MVAC shutdown.
And we've got shutdown of the second stage engine on time.
Dragon, SpaceX, nominal orbit insertion.
Launch escape system is disarmed.
And SpaceX copies.
And Leah, the words we like to hear, a nominal orbit insertion.
That's right, John. Nominal orbit insertion, as we mentioned, stage 2. Oh, looks like some action on stage 1.
Keep an eye on this. This is really cool.
And I believe we've had a touchdown on the drone ship.
We've got stage 1 has touched down on the drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. But now the more important news, second stage is in orbit, right where we want, right on time. And we're getting ready for our next major activity, which will be Dragon spacecraft separation. Now, currently on the second stage, we are essentially venting pressure, purging the engine out, making sure everything is quiet in preparation
Take a look. That's inside Crew Dragon right now. Our Crew-1 crew now coasting in low Earth orbit, still attached to that second stage. In just a couple of minutes, we should see that second stage separate and Crew Dragon will be flying free.
Leah, the mission timer shows 90 seconds to Dragon separation.
Currently, Dragon is flying at 27,000 kilometers an hour. And we're T plus 11 minutes since liftoff today, waiting on that second stage separation. But as you can see, our astronauts from left to right, Shannon Walker, Victor Glover, Mike Hopkins, and Soichi Noguchi, now on their way to the International Space Station. First trip to space for Victor Glover.
Acquisition of signal, Newfoundland.
And that call out, acquisition of signal in Newfoundland. That means the Newfoundland ground station is now receiving telemetry from Dragon. This view inside Mission Control Hawthorne. Teams continuing to monitor the vehicle, now traveling at almost 27,000 kilometers an hour.
This is so amazing.
Yes,
10 seconds to Dragon separation.
Dragon separation confirmed.
And separation confirmed. You can see that second stage departing. Crew Dragon leaving it behind.
Separation confirmed.
Now 12 minutes, 25 seconds into today's flight. Our next thing we'll be looking for is nose cone deploy. Our hooks will start to open on the nose cone and reveal those forward thrusters underneath.
We will speak a bit later. We just want to keep the tension, the excitement is just so high.
13 minutes into today's mission, the view on the right-hand side of your screen coming from Crew Dragon. We had that short look at the second stage as it departed. That second stage will burn up upon re-entry into Earth's atmosphere.
Dragon SpaceX, we see nominal service section Draco checkouts and the humidifier activation.
And SpaceX, this is Dragon. We copy all and we see the same.
Wow.
Confirmation from teams on the ground and the crew. You can see them monitoring those 3 display panels, monitoring their journey to the International Space Station and where they are in the world right now, or over the world, I should say.
Well, we're in 14 minutes, 25 seconds since it was a great liftoff. Everything happened. We had a nominal insertion into low Earth orbit. You saw Dragon separate. We got the Draco checkouts were good. And right now we're hearing the nose cone hooks are opening up. Everything is happening right per the procedure. And we've got Crew-1 successfully on orbit. So with that, let's head over to our counterparts at Kennedy Space Center. Marie, how was that launch for you all there on the ground?
Oh my gosh, John, it just took our breath away. I mean, we could just turn right around in our seats and watch. We got up away from the desk to get a better look, and then we actually could see the booster coming back down.
Yeah, that was outstanding. Outstanding. And I don't even know what to say. High five. We're like high-fiving through the shield here.
High five. My husband texted me a picture of my daughter watching liftoff. It was just, I'm emotional. Seeing that, and went on the first attempt. How often does that happen in human space flight?
As it should.
I'm very happy. It has been a long day, but just to be able to stand there and actually feel the rocket pounding the air around you was just incredible. And then looking at the light too long, I couldn't see the MVAC ignition, so I still have spots in my eyes.
And then the views inside the capsule too, with the four of them, looking kind of mellow, but you could see Victor's kind of letting his arms do a little bit of the floaty thing. I bet he cannot wait to get out of his seat.
Well, he's going to get a chance to here shortly. So he's officially on his way on his first space flight.
So
Incredible.
Victor, Mike, Shannon, and Soichi are now on course to arrive at the International Space Station just tomorrow, Monday, November 16th, around 11 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're going to stay live on air for continuous live coverage along their entire ride to station. Though our coverage here at Kennedy Space Center will conclude, we're going to turn it over to the teams in Hawthorne and Houston to take us through the next phases of the Crew-1 mission, all the way through hatch opening and a welcome ceremony for the crew. Now, for those of you watching online via YouTube, take a look at the description below the video. There you'll find the new link for our Crew-1 rendezvous phase, and we'll be continuing live coverage at that new location shortly. But if you're watching on NASA TV, like my parents, you won't notice a thing, and your coverage will continue.
That's right. And as you follow along, we also invite you to tune into a post-launch news conference at 9:00 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on NASA TV, where NASA and SpaceX will take questions live. And in addition to NASA TV, of course, you can always follow along on Twitter at @NASA and nasa.gov for continuous mission updates. We thank you all so much for watching. To all of our commentators, Nicole, special thanks to you for being here.
My pleasure, ladies. Let's do it again.
Oh, please, yes. Well, we'd love to have you back. Here now are some highlights from the incredible journey that's just begun.
Catherine, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
How was that?
So exciting. I'm so glad everything is looking good. My new favorite word has got to be nominal, because every time you hear that word, you mean everything is A-okay. So it's so exciting. What do you think?
Can you hear me? Sorry?
Yeah, what do you think?
No, I was saying it's such an incredible moment sharing this. They're now, saying a bit more about each astronaut. So I want you to introduce to us the Crew-1 that just launched from America.
Absolutely. So there are 4 astronauts that are a part of this Crew-1 mission. So first we have Michael S. Hopkins, and he is the spacecraft commander. So I've got my notes up in front of me. He is 51 years old, and he's from Missouri. He has been on a space flight before. He was a flight engineer for the Soyuz TMA-10M mission, which spanned through Expedition 37 and Expedition 38. He actually spent 28 years in the Air Force, and he earned the title of colonel there. So that's such a commitment. That's incredible. He has degrees in aerospace engineering, and he was the first member of his class. He was part of the astronaut group 20 to go to space. He is married, and he has 2 sons, and this is his second space flight. So that is our commander for the Crew-1. Then we have Victor Glover. Victor Glover is the pilot of this mission. He's 44 years old and from California. And Victor is particularly special in this mission. This is his first time going to space. He was part of the astronaut group 21. This is his first experience. Before, he was a commander in the Navy, and he earned degrees in test flight engineering and systems engineering. But now he's headed to space for the first time, and he's actually set to become the first African American astronaut to stay on a long duration flight on the International Space Station. So, first space flight, and he's already making history. He is married and he has 4 children cheering him on from back home. So that must be so incredible to have your kids watch you make history and head up to space. So next mission specialist we have is Sochi Noguchi. If I'm pronouncing that right, I apologize if I'm not. He is actually a Japanese astronaut, part of JAXA. He is 55 and from Yokohama, Japan. He's married and has 3 children waiting for him at home. He has been on numerous previous missions. He has the Space Shuttle 114, the Soyuz TMA-17, and these missions spanned across Expedition 22 and Expedition 23. Little fun fact about the Space Shuttle 114 mission, this was NASA's first return to flight Space Shuttle mission after the Columbia disaster, and it was Noguchi's first space flight. So history being made there. He is also the 5th Japanese astronaut to fly in space and the 4th to fly on the Space Shuttle. And he has a degree in aeronautical engineering. Then finally, we have Shannon Walker. She is the second second mission specialist. She is 55 years old and from Texas. She graduated a part of NASA Group 19 class of astronauts and was previously on the Soyuz TMA-19, which spanned across Expedition 24 and 25. She's also a physicist that graduated from Rice University, who studies Venus's atmosphere. So if you keep up with the latest space news, you'll know that some interesting stuff was just found in Venus's atmosphere. So she has a particular focus on that, and that's our crew.
That's so amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us. And also, is what I love about it that we have people from different backgrounds, from different countries, women, men. So that shows what happens when we put our differences aside and we come together as one to achieve something greater than us with kindness and positivity. And I think the world needs this message right now, not just for space, but as a way of living on our planet.
Absolutely. Actually, unity and resilience were the 2 themes that this mission really focused around. That's how the spacecraft even got its name. That was the driving force. We're coming together to make history. This is all part of the Commercial Crew program. So this brand new program for commercial spaceflight takes the whole world coming together, and we've seen success. I would just like to add, because I've been getting comments, if I'm looking up at notes, because I've got my notes laid
That's
out.
fine.
There's
a lot to say and to cover, and I know the excitement is so high. We just witnessed something so amazing. They only had 50-50 chances, only 50% chances to launch today. So that was a really good result.
Yes, I was worried about the weather, but it seems like everything went okay, and I'm glad.
So tell us a bit more about the mission. You were just saying something before, why it's important.
Yes, so this mission makes history in a couple of ways. It is the first crewed operational flight of a Crew Dragon spacecraft. This means it'll be the first crewed rotational flight of the spacecraft. It'll also be the first operational mission to the International Space Station as a part of this Commercial Crew program. What is the Commercial Crew program? It is a partnership between NASA, Boeing, and SpaceX to manufacture spacecraft and send astronauts that way. So very exciting stuff there, because that's a whole new world of spaceflight that we're getting into. As we recall, a couple months ago, the demo Crew Dragon space launch with astronauts Bob and Doug we watched. So that was the first time, I believe it was in 10 years, that astronauts had taken off on American soil. And so now they're doing it again. They just launched from the Kennedy Space Station in Florida. So we're back in the United States. We're keeping things at home. Money-wise, economy-wise, what this means and why this is important, it costs less money if we're launching from the United States. So that's a positive for if we want to be economically and we can save more money for equipment and stuff.
This is such a step forward in the exploration that is the space exploration that expect us as humankind. This is just the beginning. It feels this is just one of the little steps towards us going back to the moon, going to Mars, and even starting to travel outside our solar system, and maybe going to Gliese. Who knows?
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, this is all part of our Artemis program that's just taking off. So as we work up these commercial space flights, we'll be able to launch more and more frequently. So just like you said, we'll be able to get to the moon, hopefully, Mars, and beyond, and who knows.
And I want to know more about your personal experience. What are your hopes and how did you live this day?
I get particularly nervous for space launches because I just want everything to go okay, and I want, it's so important to me, and like I referenced when talking about the astronauts, that they all have families watching them. And while this is history and all of us amateur astronomers are cheering them on and it's a historic moment, it's so personal. These astronauts are really pioneers in the name of science. So I have spent the day planning out, talking about this, cheering them on, gathering people to watch, because I feel like space is something that can bring everyone together. It's a common thing that we can all share, blasting off from one planet to another. So it's just so exciting, and I'm so glad we can all celebrate it together.
Fantastic. And right now there's a lot to wait until they arrive. Tell us a bit more when they're meant to arrive and what are we expecting next?
Yes, so they are going to arrive my time, Eastern time. I think they're arriving in the 4 o'clock hour, if I'm referencing that right, because times got a little switched up because the launch was pushed. But I can reference because I wrote it down somewhere. They're going to be in the morning, so I'm going to be asleep in my neck of the woods. But the rest of, so they're going to meet Expedition 64, who partially are already on the ISS. They are going to greet them, and the two are going to dock. And then they're going to come onto the International Space Station, and they're going to stay there till about May of 2021. Let me reference, make sure I'm telling you right. Yeah, 420.
And we will be following them and see what's going on up there and keeping everyone informed with the history and the steps of humankind towards the steps of space exploration.
Yes, absolutely. There's so many, as we watched, there's so many little things that they have to keep track of and they have to watch. And it really goes to show what amazing things we can do. We can send humans safely into space.
It almost feels like a sci-fi or something, the suits that they're wearing, the inside of the Dragon, it's so beautiful with the screen and the touch screen computers. It looks, I have to say, so beautiful.
Yes, that's actually one thing they are actually going to test on the International Space Station, the new suits. They're going to be trying them out now during their the duration of their mission, because new suits have been announced, and as we saw, they wear these cool white ones now when they're in the capsule, and so we'll have to see what they wear on their spacewalks.
And also there is something happening, if I'm not wrong, in 2 days we have a spacewalk coming up.
Yes, yes. Those are always exciting.
So we will be connecting live again for when the astronaut arrives. We will check the time and announce that even if there's time difference, we will be live sharing with you the arrival of the 4 astronauts of Crew-1 on the International Space Station. We will connect again for the spacewalk, and of course we will connect again with Catherine for questions about space. And I really hope that everybody has much more, like many questions about what's going on, because there's so many things happening, and me and Catherine, with the help of the astrophysicist Pier Domenico Memeo, we are here to answer all your questions and learn more about space and space exploration.
Yes, so I actually got a couple questions that I would love to answer.
Oh, let's do it.
Yes. So my first question was, would you rather spend your holiday on the moon or on Mars? So for me, I would say Mars because I think it's much warmer there, but also you could go find Perseverance and you could find Curiosity and you could spend your holiday with them, maybe hunt down some water and all those landscapes. So I would do that. What about you, Sarah?
I think Mars too.
Yeah.
But even the idea to spend like maybe they will build a Luna Park on the moon.
Yes. That would be incredible.
Actually, I would like to go to both.
Yeah.
And before we answer the next question, I just want to share again what's happening. They're showing the next steps for the arrival of the astronauts. So I wanted just to share with everyone because
Sure.
they're still live. So it's important just to keep, everybody informed. What is the next question that you received?
The next question we got is, who is the youngest astronaut on the crew? And that would be Victor Glover. He is 44 years old. The next youngest is Michael Hopkins at 51. So Victor Glover, first spaceflight, youngest crew member. It's so brave. It's incredible what they do.
And we are wishing good luck and a safe journey to the Crew-1, to the International Space Station before they arrive. So they're just now there waiting. And we are going to stay connected with NASA to show you what's happening right now. So don't leave. Me and Catherine will say goodbye, but our live is still going on, sharing with you what's happening with NASA and with our crew. Catherine, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Well, I have a couple more questions.
Oh, let's hear it.
So then someone asked, where did the astronauts go to school? Michael Hopkins went to the University of Illinois for his undergrad and then went to Stanford for his master's. Victor Glover went to California Polytechnic State Institute, then went to the Air University and the Naval Postgrad School, which are both partnerships with the U.S. Navy. Soichi Noguchi went to the University of Tokyo, and Shannon Walker went to Rice University. And then our final question was, is Elon Musk here today, and is he watching? Which I didn't see him during the stream. I will have to follow up because some tricky things happened. He got tested for COVID-19 4 times. And I believe 2 came back positive and 2 came back negative. So I know he was on Twitter and he was a little bit confused, but I think because of the 2 positives, he has to go into a mandatory quarantine. So I don't think he was there today, but I will have to double check.
He also has a 50-50 chances. We don't know.
yeah. So we'll have to see.
To make it light and make it fun.
Yeah.
And again, this was such an amazing day, and I was so excited to share it with you and watch it live with you, Catherine. I hope you had fun. I had fun.
I did. This was amazing, and thank you everyone for joining us and celebrating with us.
Yes, thank you so much for watching. Again, you can, let's remind everyone how they can follow us and how they can support what we're doing.
Yes. Donate to www.planetclues.com if you love our content and you want to see more.
And also you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Catherine, again, I'm so excited that we did this together. Thank you so much everyone for watching. Stay tuned because we will keep sharing what's happening in the journey. We will keep being live, and there's so many more news coming up. So just follow us, communicate with us, send us questions about space again on our website, www.planetbliss.com. We look forward for the future to see what to expect in our space exploration and more.
Absolutely. There's so much to come.
Okay, so let's see what's happening with NASA. And I'm gonna say goodbye to Catherine, and we will just keep being live to look this amazing view of the Earth from space. We are just so lucky to have this planet. So I want to just remind everyone that we need to take care of our home.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Catherine. We will see you soon.
Bye.
Keep watching and follow us.
Yes, keep watching. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Doff their suits. They've had them on for quite a while today, and they are able to get into some more comfortable
Thank you
clothes.
so much again.
And so
we will stay live here with you and to see what's going on. Thank you so much for watching again. Bye.
so far, looking good for Dragon.
Dragon's move from waypoint 0 to waypoint 1 will swing it up and out in front of the station, pausing at a distance of approximately 220 meters. At this point, it will be on what we call the docking axis, which essentially means that it's directly in front of the docking port. The crew is headed to the forwardmost port on the International Space Station, the Node 2 forward port. That is where Dragon docked for both our demonstration missions and where one of the 2 international docking adapters is located. These were installed for new commercial spacecraft flights and any other future spacecraft that also use the International Docking Standard.
And once Dragon is only 20 meters away at waypoint 2, the spacecraft focuses on aligning its docking system with the docking adapter. Dragon will then fly in and make contact with the IDA, giving us what we call soft capture. The soft capture ring then retracts until sensors indicate it's time for hooks to drive in place to give us a hard capture, firmly secure Dragon to station. And then it's time for leak checks and hatch opening, which is currently timelined to come about 2 hours following docking.
So we have a lot of action to cover for the next 27 and a half hours. Let's head down to Mission Control Houston and check back in with Shaniqua Vereen to get a rundown of all the work being done on the station to prepare for Dragon's arrival. Shaniqua?
Thanks, Jesse. A lot of work has been done on the space station before we got to this day to make sure we're launching Dragon and this new crew to a fully functioning orbital laboratory. Several hours before the crew boarded Dragon, the space station team did their own go-no-go poll. There are several key systems we have to ensure are functioning properly before NASA can give a go for launch. One of the more obvious is making sure our life support systems are functioning normally. This includes the ability to turn water into oxygen for the astronauts to breathe, the ability to remove carbon dioxide exhaled by station crew into the atmosphere, and our water recovery system, which is now able to recycle about 90% of the water we send to station. We have redundant or backup systems on both the U.S. and Russian segments on the station, just in case we need to take something offline for repairs. The teams also made sure that there were no faults or issues with the station's power or cooling systems. The station's massive solar arrays generate electricity for all the hardware we have on board. All those electronics inevitably generate heat. We utilize an active cooling system using ammonia and radiators to keep everything running at a stable temperature. We also work with our Russian counterparts to ensure both means of controlling the station's attitude or
Dragon
which way it's
SpaceX
pointing are fully functional. On the U.S. side, we have large gyroscopes spinning in the station's truss that are used to stabilize and orient the station on a day-to-day basis. On the Russian segment, we have large thrusters that can be called upon to use fuel stored on board to maintain the station's attitude.
Alerts ahead of the burn.
Okay, we copy. You're still working the TCS issue.
Yeah, good copy. However, that's not a blocker.
And say that again.
Yeah, copy on the TCS issue. However, that is not a blocker to the burn.
And we copy that.
We'll end up using both once it's time for Dragon to dock, switching to Russian thrusters in the final phases of approach, which can respond faster to any forces felt by station from Dragon's thrusters, and then back to gyroscopes, which are normally smoother and ensure Dragon's docking hooks can deploy successfully. Right now, the Expedition 64 crew aboard the station is still asleep, but they're scheduled to wake up at midnight here in Houston, 6 a.m. GMT on Monday to prepare for Dragon's docking.
SpaceX, this is the crew resilience on the cabin mic top.
That's astronaut and Expedition 64 flight engineer Kate
Hello,
Rubins
Victor.
will be
I've got you
monitoring
loud
the
and clear on
Dragon's
the
approach.
cabin mic.
How's it going, Jay? Great to hear your voice.
Likewise.
We're hearing good calls from the Corps on Dragon to ground. But as I was stating, flight engineer Kate Rubins will be monitoring Dragon's approach using special software to make sure Dragon is flying in the expected areas, and she will be on standby to help in any abort scenarios. Once docked, she'll be primed for setting up the hardware on the station side to get ready for hatch opening and pre-positioning some ducting that will use to integrate Dragon's atmosphere with the rest of the station. So a lot of work done already, and the station team
Dragon
remains
SpaceX
ready for Dragon to arrive in just about 27 and a half hours. For now, back over to Jesse and Leah to take us through the next steps for Dragon.
Yeah, we are going to take commands to clear the fault flag on loop Bravo and then loop Alpha, and that should put both loops running at half speed.
Thanks, Shaniqua. We are.
Okay, you're going to clear the fault on Bravo, then Alpha, then they should both be running at half speed for nominal ops.
Good copy, and we're putting that in work now.
Dragon.
And it sounds like they were discussing those TCS thermal control system issues. They are putting both Loop A and Loop Bravo, Loop B, at 50% so that they can run nominal operations. But looks like we are getting ready to move into the phase burn.
Yes, we are. So we're waiting for Dragon to move into that phase burn. And as we mentioned earlier, there are 5 major burns where Draco thrusters will ignite and bring the spacecraft close to the station before we begin final approach maneuvers. Our initial orbit after Dragon separated from Falcon 9 was 210 by 190 kilometers. Those values represent the orbit apogee, or the highest point over the Earth, and the perigee, or the lowest point over the Earth. That means that the orbit isn't a perfect circle, and we're going to see Dragon raise its orbit using the Draco thrusters over the coming hours as it chases down the space station.
So as we mentioned, the first major burn is the phase burn, which is performed at the first apogee of the initial orbit and raises Dragon
SpaceX settling burns have started. Just a reminder to minimize any dynamic movements during the burn, but okay to continue suit offing.
Okay, Dragon copies. We are into the settling burns, and we'll go on minimize movement during the actual burn.
And still preparing for that burn, but it'll raise Dragon's perigee, the lowest point of its orbit, to a higher altitude. This burn will use the Draco thrusters located on the forward bulkhead. That's the very top of Dragon under the nose cone, which is now deployed. It'll also use the thrusters around the service section or the lower part of the Dragon capsule. The thrusters located on the bulkhead are primarily used for these delta velocity burns, which will gradually raise Dragon's orbit over the coming hours.
Dragon SpaceX for TCS.
And go ahead for TCS.
We have cleared the alerts, and Loop Alpha is back up, looking nominal right now. We're going to continue to monitor, but we are going to clear the alerts on the board.
Okay, Loop Alpha is up. We see that both are at half speeds, and you're going to clear the alerts off the board.
Good readback. Yeah, and this is the nominal configuration.
And Dragon copies.
And great news from the core crew operations
and Dragon SpaceX, just for timeline awareness, burn is in about just under 1 minute.
And copy that. We see it starts in 40 seconds. And just for your awareness, both MS-1 and pilot are out of their suits, and they're getting them strapped into their seats this time.
Copy all.
And the phase burn should begin in just a few seconds from now. As you heard, the crew are still doffing their suits. They're allowed to continue moving around the capsule as long as they don't impart any forces on the capsule itself. Additionally, great news that the TCS thermal control system is in a nominal configuration, as they suspected that pump is still functional. And so Crew Dragon continues its journey to the International Space Station. Looking good.
Yeah. Now, in addition to those 4 bulkhead Draco thrusters that Leah was mentioning earlier, there are 12 more Dracos in the service section, which is the area along the lower part of the Dragon capsule. These will be used in every burn and are primarily there to help maintain Dragon's altitude, which is especially important when doing the finely tuned approach into docking. They can also be used for smaller transitional maneuvers as well. And we're just waiting for confirmation of that phase burn.
The view on the right side of your screen here is pretty impressive, I have to say. That's the International Space Station. That's from the International Space Station. It's solar arrays specifically, and it's currently flying, let's see here, over the South Pacific Ocean, about 267 statute miles above Earth. So Crew Dragon is continuing its pursuit of the International Space Station, and that's where you can find it right now. Still awaiting confirmation of the beginning of the phase burn. And actually, phase burn has begun. We are a minute underway, so good news there. And it should last about 9.5 minutes, as we mentioned, raising the perigee, or the lowest point of Dragon's current orbit, to a higher altitude. Got a lot of milestones coming up. You know, there were a lot in the countdown to the mission, but there is still a lot to go as it continues its approach to the space station. The next really major milestone comes at 1:10 a.m. Pacific time. Oh, and we're getting words that the burn is proceeding nominally, so that's good. But tomorrow morning, actually, it'll be 4:10 a.m. Pacific time, or Eastern time. The Crew Dragon crew will get some much-needed shut-eye. It's been a long day for them. And we try not to really do any burns while they're asleep. We want to give them the opportunity to sleep, because those burns, you know, might be a little bit loud, might wake them up. So the next burn will be the boost burn. That won't come until 8:20 a.m. Pacific or 11:20 a.m. Eastern time. So those are just a couple of the things we can look forward to on Dragon's journey to the International Space Station. As we mentioned, though, those are just 2 of the 5 burns. We'll also have the close burn, That comes at 9:02 a.m. Pacific, 12:02 p.m. Eastern. The transfer burn at 2:45 Pacific and 5:45 Eastern, and then the co-elliptic burn. Once these burns, these major burns are complete, we'll be done with the rendezvous phase, and then we'll move into the approach initiation phase. So as we mentioned, we are in the phase burn right now. We're getting good information that phase burn is proceeding nominally. It's about a 9.5 minute burn. And afterward, that's actually raising Dragon's perigee, the lowest part of its orbit, as we mentioned, and that'll put us in place for the boost burn. The boost burn will not take place until tomorrow morning when the astronauts are starting to wake up. They might not be awake just yet. And after the boost burn, which will raise the apogee, or the highest point of Dragon's orbit, to 10 kilometers lower than the station, we will find the closed co-elliptic burn. That's about 45 minutes after the boost burn, and it'll put Dragon's orbit roughly co-elliptic with the space station. That means that 10-kilometer orbit below station will be where Dragon stays around the Earth. Afterward, we have the transfer burn. That will adjust Dragon's apogee, the highest point of its orbit, to just 2.5 kilometers lower than the station orbit. And then the final co-elliptic burn about 45 minutes after the transfer burn, putting Dragon into an orbit co-elliptic with the station about 2.5 kilometers below it the entire way around the Earth. As we mentioned, after that, the rendezvous is complete, and we'll still be about 30 kilometers behind the station at that time. We'll have the approach initiation burn afterward. This, as we mentioned, is beginning that approach phase.
Yeah, and all of these burns, there's several different burns. They're all doing a different thing for Dragon, but basically it's a very precise maneuver to get to the station. It's very important to make sure that we get there slowly and steadily and make our way right in front of the docking port. So every single one of these burns is extremely important and extremely precise.
Absolutely. And I think it's almost dinner time.
Yeah, I think they're getting ready for a meal coming up in just about a few minutes here, about 12 minutes at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. The crew will have their first meal on board Dragon, and they have enough food on board Dragon for 12 meals each, along with snacks for the trip up. And these are MREs, or meals ready to eat. They're essentially prepackaged meals ready for consumption without any heating or additional ingredients. And they also have 55 liters, or about 14.5 gallons of water with them.
Yeah, and these are a little bit different. Actually, they might be a good bit different from their food that they can expect on the International Space Station. MREs, like you said, meals ready to eat. They don't require any work, which sounds like a dream sometimes to me personally. I love that kind of food.
No cooking.
But they just have to open the package and they can eat their dinner. Whereas on the International Space Station, we have thermostabilized food for some of the options, and the astronauts can. There's a small nozzle on each package, and they can plug that into a water source, which will they can turn it to the correct temperature setting that reads on the package, and put the water in. They'll mash it around a little bit, make sure it gets all of the food heated up, and then it's ready to eat. So that system isn't on Crew Dragon because it's really only for short destinations. So MREs for now.
Yeah, it sounds very convenient with that small space inside of Dragon, that they don't have to do all that cooking and rehydrating of their food. They can just pull out their food and eat it right then and there.
Yeah, and it also means you don't have to wait on everybody else to heat up their food before you get to heat up your food. So everybody can eat dinner at the same time. And a reminder, we are still in the phase burn. And a little under 3 minutes left. Dracos are looking good. Burn is proceeding nominally. It was a 9.5 minute burn. We are standing by for more information as we continue. This burn, as we said, will raise the apogee, the highest point of Dragon's orbit, to 10 kilometers lower than the International Space Station. That beautiful view on the right-hand side.
We are just waiting on that phase burn to complete. It is about a 9-minute burn, and it should be closing here shortly in about a minute or so, but we'll wait for that call out and that confirmation.
And everything we've heard so far is that the burn is proceeding nominally. All of the Dracos are performing well. The first of 5 major burns for the crew on their way to the International Space Station. International Space Station will be their home for the next 6 months, and a really interesting fact is this flight today makes Soichi Noguchi only the 3rd person ever to fly on 3 different spacecraft. So he has flown on the space shuttle, on a Russian Soyuz, and now Crew-Dragon, and the only other 2 people who have done that are Wally Schirra and John Young. So
wow.
He's joining a very select few with this milestone.
It's amazing. We are still waiting for that phase burn confirmation. We are getting some really awesome views of Earth.
Yeah, that never gets old.
I wonder what the crew members are thinking, especially Victor, if this is his first time, you know, in space, seeing the world in this view here. That's incredible.
Dragon SpaceX, nominal burn.
Okay, we copy nominal burn, and we'll be getting into 4.300 here shortly.
Copy, getting into 4.300 shortly, and we can confirm there will be no out-of-plane burn.
Okay, copy that. No out-of-plane burns.
And there's that confirmation of that phase burn is complete and nominal.
And we won't be needing the out-of-plane burn either, which would be in case Crew-Dragon needed its journey adjusted just a little bit. So it sounds like they are on the right path as well. But yes, good confirmation of the phase burn, the first of 5 major burns as Crew-Dragon makes its way to the International Space Station. So we do have 27 hours, and we would love to answer some of your questions on social media. So if you're curious about some aspect of today's crew mission, please submit your question with the hashtag AskNASA, and we'll try our best to answer it. This first one comes from Nico, who wants to know why it takes about 27 hours to reach the space station on this flight compared with about 8 hours if we had launched yesterday. And I think the key word is phasing. It really just depends on phasing, but also it doesn't necessarily take Crew-Dragon 27 hours to reach the International Space Station. It just takes long enough that our crew is going to need a sleep period in that time. So we had to factor in a sleep period. That way they are alert and cognizant and ready to step in case anything needed to be done manually on the mission. So it is a bit longer, but we're here for the whole thing, and you can join us.
Sounds very smart that they plan in sleep, because I don't know if I went all day, 24 hours trying to make it to the station and then trying to function. So I'm glad that they'll get some rest during their trip there. Absolutely. Another good question, Crew-Dragon of the Crew-1 mission. Is this a new capsule, or is this the refurbished DM2 vehicle? You want to take that? This is a brand new vehicle for Crew-1. We did not refurbish Demo 2 for this specific mission. So it is a brand new capsule. These are the first 4 astronauts that get to fly on this vehicle. So it must be really exciting for them to get to fly on not only a new spacecraft, but a new vehicle itself as well.
Absolutely. And very cool is that the Demo 2 vehicle, Endeavour, which is what Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley named it, that will be the vehicle for Crew 2 coming up next year. And so I also learned that it will keep its name, Endeavour. The new crew won't rename it moving forward. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that actually is going to be a really exciting flight because we will also be refurbishing the first stage booster on today's flight for Crew 2 as well.
As we get some more beautiful views from the International Space Station on the right-hand side, let's see, it's currently flying. It's actually about to enter an orbital sunset, or an orbital nighttime, I should say. The International Space Station flies at 17,500 miles an hour, and so it's orbiting Earth, and it sees 16 sunrises and sunsets a day. So while it looks beautiful right now, it's coming up toward Mexico and will be entering the orbital nighttime.
Dragon SpaceX for next burn.
Hey, go ahead for the next burn.
Stand by.
Roger, standing by.
But I was mentioning it's, and a really cool view right now. You can see the Cygnus resupply, commercial resupply spacecraft on the International Space Station. Those two solar arrays that look like symbols, makes it really easy to spot. And that actually brought up some of the science that Crew-1 is going to be working on while they're on the space station. We'll chat a little bit more about that later.
Awesome. So we have another question here from NASA. At NASA, when do you get to contact family when in space?
That's a good question, and you know, it's very fortunate. The astronauts, I've actually heard many say, especially if they were in the military, they were able to speak with their families more on the space station than they were, you know, while deployed sometimes. And so they get the opportunity to FaceTime, or I guess.
And SpaceX from Dragon for suit off steps.
Dragon SpaceX, go ahead.
Hey, Jay, as we mentioned earlier, MS-1 and pilot are complete with their suit doffing. We've completed 4.300, and Commander and MS-2 are going off umbilicals at this time to start the suit doffing.
Copy. MS-1 pilot complete, and Commander and MS-2 are starting their suit doffing now and complete with 4.300. And I'm ready for that burn.
And I'm ready. Okay, yeah, go ahead and give us the words on the burn.
Okay, the boost burn is as scheduled, currently showing 16:20:42 UTC. However, ahead of that time, we may or may not take additional phase burns or out of plane burns, but we're not currently, there's nothing the vehicle's planning right now.
Okay, we copy. So the next burn is currently that boost burn at 16:20. However, there could be some additional burns in between, but nothing at this time.
Correct, and we'll keep you posted if that changes.
Dragon copies. Hey, Jay, one last thing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the view is beautiful.
Outstanding. Yeah, take lots of pictures for us, and also have some words for you from C.
Okay, copy, and we are ready for the words from CE.
Yeah, resilience. On behalf of SpaceX, thanks for flying Falcon and Dragon, and safe travels.
And thanks, Han, to the entire Falcon 9 team. Well done. That was one heck of a ride. There was a lot of smiles. I don't know if you can see on the video. But also to the SpaceX recovery and launch teams and all of the NASA teams and DoD teams. You know, we wouldn't be up here in Leo without your support. Making history is definitely hard, and you guys all made it look easy. And again, congratulations to everyone. Resilience is in orbit.
Thank you so much and travel safely.
Thank you.
Some amazing words from the crew on board, and what you're looking at on your screen is actually live views from Dragon itself, from Resilience right now. So we are getting to see what the crew is seeing as well on board.
And they did say it was beautiful, and I have to agree. I don't know if there's ever a time you're flying over and it's not beautiful.
Right.
So it has to be a very interesting first flight for Victor, and getting to share it with people he's very close with is really cool too.
Right, I can't even imagine.
So getting back to Rohan's question, when do you get to contact family when in space? As I mentioned, the astronauts do have scheduled times they can video chat with their families. They also have a phone which they can dial their families from up there. So they get to talk with them pretty frequently, sometimes daily, and I think maybe weekly for the video conferences.
Yeah, it sounds really convenient, and probably something that they could really use while they're away for 6 months. And it sounds like they'll get to video chat. At least they've gotten some practice with the pandemic doing video chatting. So hopefully they're used to it, but really amazing that they get to still communicate with their families back on Earth.
I know, I was thinking the same thing. It's been very similar this year. You know, we're all getting a little taste of what it's like to be an astronaut on a long duration mission and having to be just a little bit isolated, you know, in your own space for an extended period of time, and life just becomes much more virtual. And so I think we can understand just a little bit more what it's like to be in their shoes or their suits.
Right. Now again, the next milestone coming up is their crew meal. We are waiting for them to start their meal as they watch this amazing view. That's what you see on your screen. This is the view from Dragon, from Resilience. This is what the crew members get to see on their way to the International Space Station.
Yeah, and they're still getting into their more comfortable clothes right now before we get into that meal. And I'm not sure what they're having for dinner, but I heard what they had for breakfast. And it sounded pretty delicious, whether it was a medium rare steak, I heard, I think a medium burger, some curry.
Right.
I'm having a really easy time remembering all of these things because they sound so good.
Again, we are waiting for the crew to finish getting out of their suits and getting comfortable and getting ready for their midday meal.
It's they each get 12 meals while they're on this flight, or they each have 12 meals. I don't know if they'll need to eat 12 meals on the way or in 27 hours. I think I could do it, but they also have some snacks. So they are well prepared for their journey to the International Space Station. And let's see, it's been a little over an hour from launch now. It's been an hour and 7 minutes to be specific. So I think we have about 26 more to go, and they should be getting settled in, getting out of those suits, and looking forward to dinner.
And that hour went by so fast. I feel like we just lifted off. But yeah, I'm waiting for the crew to start their midday meal. They are getting comfortable inside of Dragon now that they're coasting, so out of their suits into some more comfortable clothes. And they are going to be eating MREs, which are meals ready to eat. And as we mentioned earlier, they are meals that they don't have to rehydrate, they don't need to heat up, they could just pull them out and just start eating.
And I wonder what that is. But a good reminder, on the right side of your screen is Mission Control Hawthorne, and that's the teams that are looking all over all of the Crew Dragon systems. We also have Mission Control Houston in Houston, Texas, and that's NASA's Mission Control Center. And a good view of Mission Control Houston. Feels a little bit like home for me. But they will really come into play tomorrow once we begin joint operations, as the Crew Dragon gets a little bit closer closer to the International Space Station, because then we have two vehicles in play. We've got the International Space Station when we've got Crew-Dragon. So our teams here are monitoring the International Space Station, teams in Hawthorne really still looking over Crew-Dragon systems.
Again, if you're just now joining us, we did have an on-time liftoff of our Crew-1 mission today, and now we are coasting on Dragon. We are waiting for the crew to start their midday meal, as they are getting comfortable inside of Dragon right now as they coast towards the International Space Station.
Yeah, just a little bit of a reminder. You know, it's been a little bit since we talked about who's on our crew. We've got all of their first names out there, but Victor Glover, he's the pilot of the spacecraft. This is his first space flight, and he was selected in 2013. And so his training takes a couple of years. Any astronaut training takes a couple of years. And he was officially an astronaut in 2015. He was also a commander in the U.S. Navy. So he was a naval aviator. He was a test pilot in the FA-18 Hornet, and he mentioned earlier in the video we watched about him all of the hours he had flying, but this being the first time he'll get to go over a certain altitude and actually reach space. So I know it's a huge milestone for him today.
Yeah, he knew that exact number, that exact height that he's reached. So now he's reached new heights. I wonder what he's feeling right now.
I can only imagine. And it's been a little while since they ate. I think I heard somebody joking about, I hope they weren't too nervous, but it's been a while. I'm sure he's fine. Mike Hopkins is the commander of the spacecraft. He's sitting next to Victor. We are looking right to left. He's sitting on Victor's left, but our right of Victor. He was selected in 2009, and he has spent 166 days in space already aboard the International Space Station. So feels like home to him, I'm sure. He was part of the Expedition 3738 crew. And he was a colonel in the U.S. Air Force as well. So those are our military folks aboard the spacecraft. We have Victor, who is in the Navy, and we have Mike, who is in the Air Force.
Yeah.
And additionally, Shannon Walker, she was selected in 2004. She's a Houston native, so she didn't really have to relocate to come work at Johnson Space Center. She holds a doctorate of philosophy in space physics, which is incredibly impressive to me. And she began her career as a robotics flight controller for the International Space Station. So she was very familiar with the space station, and then she actually lived there. She spent 163 days on station. In 2010, she was part of Expedition 24 and 25. And I think it says something about, you know, we're 20 years on the space station now as of November 2nd. And now we're on Expedition 64, so we've come quite a long way. And our next crew member is actually one of our international partners. He's with the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency. That is Soichi Noguchi. He apparently is the funniest one on the crew, according to all of the crew members. And just from watching their videos together, I think I agree. He's pretty funny. He was selected as an astronaut in 1996, and he's actually flown, as we mentioned, on the space shuttle. He flew on STS-114, and that was in 2005. He did 3 spacewalks then, and then he became the first Japanese astronaut to perform a spacewalk at the space station. So he's racking up the titles now.
I know.
Because he also flew in 2010 as Expedition 2223 and spent 163 days in space then. That was aboard a Soyuz. And then today, he's now flying on Crew-Dragon, so he is now one of 3 people to have ever flown on 3 spacecraft.
He's got a lot of experience. That sounds pretty amazing and pretty hard to do, I would assume. Well, let's take some more social questions. But if you have any questions that you'd like us to answer, please at NASA and use the hashtag #AskNASA. And maybe we'll get to read your question and be able to answer it. So we've got one here. How many different sections make up the ISS?
Well, it's very interesting. The ISS, or the International Space Station, if you're watching, this is kind of, it's not in flux by any means. It is complete, but we are seeing new pieces continuing to be added, like the Bigelow Expandable Activity Module. That is as it sounds, an expandable module attached to the International Space Station. And then we're also going to have a brand new airlock added. So the number continues to grow, but it's owned by, I guess you could say, different countries around the world. It really is international. You know, we have a European module, we have the US modules, we have Russian modules, we have the Canada arm, and others I'm sure I'm forgetting. So it's quite large. It's actually the same interior volume of a Boeing 747. If you took all the seats out of a Boeing 747, I think I could make myself comfortable.
And just goes to show you how important teamwork is, right? We have all these countries working together, and that makes up the International Space Station, which is incredible. And now we have more crew members, a diverse set of crew members on their way to join the other astronauts on board the International Space Station.
This next question, what is the difference between previous missions and the current mission, apart from the number of astronauts? So as we saw earlier this year, DM2, actually DM stands for demonstration mission. So that was still a test flight. We had Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley live on the International Space Station for a couple of months. But this time, Crew Dragon is certified as a vehicle that can fly to and from the International Space Station. It's not a test anymore. This is the real deal for these 4 astronauts. Another, I think, very interesting thing is it is in relation to the number of astronauts, but this is the first ever 4-person capsule.
Right.
So that's a pretty interesting difference in this mission.
Right, and the capsule is made to have up to 7 crew members, but this mission has 4. And also another difference between Demo 2 and this mission is that Bob and Doug actually had, because it was a test flight, they actually did have some work to do while they were coasting to the International Space Station, whereas today the crew members are actually enjoying their ride most of the time all the way to the station, since this is an official commercial flight. So we've got another question. How many times has the Falcon 9 that was used today been launched? Well, this was a brand new first stage booster, so it's only been launched once, and just an hour ago, about a little over an hour ago. But we are very excited that we are planning to use this same booster for Crew-2 next spring. So that will be its second launch, but just to answer the question, this booster has only launched one time.
And this one, why do they stay up in the space station for 6 months? Well, we are looking to go to the moon and Mars, and the best place to test out what it's like to live for an extended period of time in microgravity is here in low Earth orbit, because it's much, I'm not going to say easy, it's never easy to get anywhere in space, but it's not as difficult to get to and from the space station as it would be to get to and from the moon or to and from Mars. And so living that long on the International Space Station gives us the opportunity to evaluate how astronauts' bodies adapt when they are in microgravity for that amount of time. That helps us prepare for those long duration missions. Additionally, because they're very busy, they've got hundreds of science experiments that they're working on at any one time. Over the past 20 years, we've completed over 3,000 science experiments aboard the International Space Station, and so many of them really benefit life on Earth. So they may be up there for a while, but it's all for a very good reason.
Yeah, it sounds like a 2-for-1. If you're going to go out to Mars, that is a much longer journey, much harder to get back to Earth. So I think these small, almost short sprints in comparison, even though it's 6 months, 6 months is a long time to us, it does make sense. It's like training to get ready for these longer missions, right?
And we're still just waiting for the crew members to have their dinner. And as we mentioned, we're taking these Ask NASA questions. So if you have one, use that hashtag Ask NASA on Twitter. We'll be on the lookout. Another one, what is the most crowded the International Space Station has ever been? And the number is 13. So we had 6 expedition crew members and then 7 on a space shuttle docked to the International Space Station. And when our crew members arrive tomorrow, they will more than double the current residents on the International Space Station. There are currently 3 people on board. We've got Sergei Kutsverchkov, Sergei Rizikov of the Roscosmos Russian Space Agency. We've got astronaut Kate Rubins on board. And so adding 4 tomorrow makes 7, which we have not had 7 long-duration crew members on the International Space Station in quite a while.
7 doesn't sound too bad compared to 13, so hopefully they have enough space to be able to, you know, maneuver around for the next 6 months. We've got another social question. What's the new crew going to be working on for the next 6 months?
Well, we talked about some of the science, and some of the science, as we mentioned, happens on their bodies. They take biological samples that are then compared to ones that were taken before they launched. And then they're taken some more once they get back, and that's all in comparison to how their body adapts to microgravity. We heard someone speaking about tissue chips earlier. They can,
sounded so cool.
It's so cool. It's totally beyond me, but you can put organs on chips, and essentially it gives them a better idea. It gives scientists an easier look at how potential drugs affect organs, and also just helps us to develop things that may eventually heal or treat some of what we deal with on Earth.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing all like the updates on some of these science experiments, especially the tissue chips one.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to talk a little bit more about science later, because we have quite a list of just examples. But let's see this one. Will Crew 2 arrive before Crew 1 departs? And will there be any overlapping arrivals and departures?
Oh, that's a really good question. So the timing is actually Crew 1 should return prior to liftoff of Crew 2. That's the schedule so far, but it might actually overlap when we do liftoff Crew 2. So we don't have the exact schedule just yet, so we will have to wait to see when we announce those schedules.
I think actually we will have a direct handover. Crew 2 will arrive at the International Space Station, and then Crew 1 will leave. So we'll have 2 Crew Dragons on the space station at one time. That'll be pretty cool.
Yeah.
This one, do you have plans to take 7 people in a Dragon space capsule? You can talk a little bit more about that.
Well, Crew Dragon is made and designed to carry up 7 crew members. So there will be a time in the future to have a 7-member vehicle go up to the space station. But I believe Crew 2 is actually going to be another 4-person crew flight. But it is designed to have up to 7 crew members. So hopefully soon in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And NASA doesn't have any current plans to expand from that 4-person crew, but as you mentioned, Dragon can fly 7, so we will have to see one day, maybe on commercial missions, what we do with putting 7 people on board.
Yeah.
This question from Ashley, what do the boost burns do? The boost burn comes tomorrow morning. We are trying to let the crew get some sleep and not awake them with any burns. And so boost burn will raise their apogee, the highest point of their orbit, to 10 kilometers lower than the station. That'll be the second of those 5 major burns we talked about, propelling Crew Dragon toward the International Space Station. So that's the next burn we're looking forward to. We've just had the phase burn, everything looking well for Dragon. And we will not have a burn until tomorrow morning. So quite a bit of time in between that we're going to let the crew get a meal, get some sleep, and then wake up early tomorrow and get ready for their arrival to their new home on the space station.
Right, and as you mentioned earlier, if they do tread the course or go a little bit off course, they will use some extra phase burns if needed, but so far everything is looking good for that next burn being the boost burn. We've got another question. Do the astronauts have some place in the Dragon to sleep, or are they sleeping in their chairs?
They actually are sleeping in their chairs.
Yeah.
They can take off those foot restraints and stow those, so that's an option. It also gives them a little more room to float around inside the capsule, and it's a little more crowded this time with
4 people.
4 people instead of just 2, and so we have we'll have that opportunity. They also have some window covers that they can put up inside Crew Dragon, because as we mentioned, they're going around the Earth every 90 minutes.
Right.
And that would really mess with your circadian rhythm if you couldn't get some good shut-eye, some good darkness for that full time. And so instead of going in and out of sunlight every 45 minutes, they're going to put up those window covers and hopefully feel like a real nighttime, get some real sleep.
Yeah, and just as a reminder, these are custom seats for them, so they are made for each one of the crew members, so they should be pretty comfortable, I would hope. So they should be able to get some good sleep, knowing that they are custom fitted for each crew member on board. So we have another question from John. How do they do laundry on the ISS? That's a really great question.
I love this question because I wish the answer was true for me. The answer is they don't. They don't do laundry on the International Space Station. They simply throw out their clothes. So,
oh wow.
I know. So they can wear them a certain amount of times, and they may choose to bring some back with them. However, typically any older dirty clothes they can put on the commercial resupply vehicles that do not splash down or that just burn up in space. So there's not really a trash can, there's not a laundry machine on the space station. They put them inside of those vehicles that burn up in the atmosphere, and that takes care of that.
So if you don't like doing laundry, become an astronaut.
Yeah, that's a great point. I could do that.
We've got one more question. What personal items can you take to the ISS? You mentioned this earlier. They can only take approved items with them. So what are the approved items that NASA will allow the astronauts to bring with them?
A lot of astronauts choose to bring photos, and they'll put photos up because they have a very small, I guess you could call it bedroom. It's called crew quarters, but it's very small, and they put the photos, on the walls, remind them of home. It's probably their family, their friends, and these are personal items, so we don't necessarily always know what it is, but I've also seen, pieces of jewelry or just special mementos to them if they want to take to low Earth orbit and bring back. So those are just a few of the things that they've taken before.
And again, we are just waiting for the crew to begin their midday meal. So far, we've had an on-time liftoff of our Crew-1 mission. The astronauts are on Resilience right now, coasting along to the International Space Station. We did complete the phase burn, and the next burn planned is the boost burn. So we are just waiting for the crew to start their meal.
Yes, so after their meal, they will get to go to sleep. Sleep should come around 2:25 a.m. Pacific time. That would be 5:25 a.m. Eastern time. Hopefully, fingers crossed, they get a good 8 hours of rest after a busy day like today. Hopefully, they won't have a hard time falling asleep. But being in microgravity is pretty exciting, so I don't know if I could sleep.
Right.
So we'll be looking for them to have that meal, have a good 8 hours of sleep before the next burn tomorrow morning, the boost burn.
We are going to take a quick break, but we will be back. What you'll see on your screen is some live animation for where the crew is throughout their journey, but we'll be right back.
And SpaceX in section 5 of 4.012, we have commanded the suit fan off. So commander, pilot, MS-1 and MS-2 suits are dry.
Copy Victor, suit fan off, and all crew members off their suits. Dragon SpaceX for a timeline.
And go ahead for timeline, Jay.
Okay, Resilience, we're seeing a pretty quiet timeline ahead of the scheduled PMC at 0720. If there are any optional events ahead of that you would like us to take, let us know. In the meantime, we're going to keep the loops pretty quiet, but we're here if you need us. And Resilience for SpaceX, and there's no response required on that at this time. Just let us know when you're ready. No rush. And also,
I'll do the PMC now. I'm sorry about that. I might have keyed the mic. Go ahead, Jay.
yeah, I'm saying there's no, no rush on the optional events. Just let us know whenever you decide. And in the meantime, just enjoy your time with your brand new spaceship, and let us know if you need us.
Okay, yeah, hey, we were just talking it over, and copy 720 for the plan, and we would like to go ahead and get configured to do the PMC. We'll go ahead and knock that out, and we're in section 6 of 4.012, so we're wrapping that up, still in the last suits in the bags, and we'll be completing that here shortly. But yeah, we'd like to go ahead and set up for the first PMC.
Copy, we'll put that in work, and copy section 6 complete 4.012. And we'll let you know when you're configured.
Thank you.
And those were some calls from the Corps, the Crew Operations and Resources Engineer here in SpaceX at Hawthorne. To the Crew-1 aboard Crew Dragon Resilience. Earlier you heard them discuss all of the crew members are out of the suits and they've started drying them. And just now, confirmation that it's going to be pretty quiet for the next little while. The crew is preparing for their PMC, or private medical conference. All of the astronauts, when they go to the International Space Station, have a flight doctor, and they do routine check-ins to make sure that their health is well and that they are feeling good while aboard the International Space Station. And so the same thing happens here, just checking in with the crew on their private medical conference. Of course, the next burn coming up, we had the phase burn earlier, and the next one won't be until tomorrow morning. That's the boost burn. That'll be the second of 5 major burns as Dragon continues its journey to the International Space Station. So Corps explained to the crew they're going to keep the loops pretty quiet, encourage them to enjoy their new spacecraft and some time together as well.
Dragon SpaceX for PMC.
Go ahead for PMC.
Yeah, we're ready to configure at this time, so the next call will be from flight surgeon.
Brazilians.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Rocket Tranquility, we copy you on the ground. New possibilities are opening up for scientific cooperation between countries.
1-0. Liftoff. Americans return to space as Discovery clears the tower.
Discovery, go and throttle up. Discovery, roger, go for deploy. Everybody in the shuttle program, the crew is go for launch. Roger, nice to be in orbit.
We have followed in their footsteps to get us where we are today.
Thank you for joining us. Moments ago, at 7:27 p.m., the NASA SpaceX Crew-1 mission blasted off from Kennedy Space Center's historic Pad 39A with 4 astronauts, Americans Mike Hopkins, Victor Glover, Shannon Walker, and Japanese astronauts Soichi Noguchi. Today, we have a great group of people to talk about the Crew-1 mission in this post-launch press conference and talk about the many historic elements of this historic launch. Joining us today is NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine, Kathy Leaders, Associate Administrator for Human Exploration and Operations at NASA Headquarters, Hiroshi Sasaki, Vice President and Director General of JAXA's Human Spaceflight Technology Directorate, Steve Dixon, Administrator of the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, and Gwen Shotwell, President and Chief Operating Officer of SpaceX. And I'm Bettina Inclon. In a moment, we'll hear their opening remarks, and then we'll take questions from the media. So let's start with Administrator Jim Bridenstine.
Well, thank you, Bettina. Another historic night, and I want to congratulate the NASA team and the SpaceX team for an amazing job yet again. So the big milestone here is that we are now moving away from development and test and into operational flights. And in fact, this operational flight was licensed by the FAA. So this is truly a commercial launch vehicle, and we're grateful to our partners at SpaceX for providing it and our partners at the FAA for licensing it. And I'm also grateful to our partners with Japan. And Hiroshi Sasaki, who's with us today, you should know that Japan is an amazing partner for the United States of America. We are exceptionally grateful that Japan would join us on Crew-1. And so this is a great day for the United States of America and a great day for Japan. And we look forward to many more years of a great partnership, not just in low Earth orbit, but all the way to the moon. So we're just, really excited with how well it went today, and look forward to answering any questions.
Kathy?
Yeah, I cannot tell you. I know. Thank you, Gwen. It's been quite a journey for the team that's been out here and working so hard. This is really an amazing day for us. I can't tell you. I'm just like pretty choked up a little bit thinking about, you know, the folks that have spent years of their lives getting ready for this mission, and being able to see the crew fly today was just phenomenal. You know, we've talked a lot about firsts, and this mission is an example of multiple firsts for us. A partnership across agencies with the FAA, obviously, FCC, first commercial mission, a partnership across our international partners, and having, you know, the Sasaki-san here is an example, and having Soichi on the flight is just an amazing experience for us. But most of all, it's a partnership with SpaceX and our commercial partners. And you know, leaving the team over there in the firing room, everybody is so fired up. They're so excited about this mission, but we're not done yet. We need to keep going. That spacecraft's out there with those 4 precious crew members on them, and we're going to get them safely to the International Space Station tomorrow, right? And but it was a beautiful launch today, and really excited, and thank you.
First of all, on behalf of Jackson, I'd like to express my appreciation to all staff who are engaged in the launch operations during the COVID-19 situations. The mission is still ongoing, but I would like to congratulate launch success first. I have seen lots of launches of the Japanese rocket, but it is the first time to see the launch of Falcon 9. The night launch was very beautiful, and it was even more impressive considering that the 4 crew members, including JAXA astronaut Noguchi, were on board. It is very significant for JAXA that astronaut Noguchi will board the first operational flight of Crew Dragon and launches from Kennedy Space Center. I believe that this is an outcome of the cooperation between NASA and JAXA. And the efforts of JAXA, including the astronaut Noguchi, have been highly evaluated by the partners. Astronaut Noguchi will be involved in a variety of activities on the ISS, and he will conduct science activities using microgravity environment and demonstrate the technologies for the future. Currently, JAXA and NASA are working on the framework of Japan-US Open Platform Partnership Program to achieve results through the mutual use of experiment equipment, and would like to further deepen the cooperation between Japan and US. In July, the Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science and Technology of Japan and NASA signed the Joint Exploration Declaration of Intent for lunar cooperation. I believe the human space activities will expand from the ISS to the moon. I am looking forward to enjoy the new era and going together for the future. As once again, congratulations on the successful launch.
Well, on behalf of 45,000 aerospace professionals at the FAA, it is truly an honor and a privilege. This is a big night for many of us, and it's a big night for the FAA. But I first want to offer my congratulations, heartfelt congratulations to Jim and the NASA team, Sasaki-san, and JAXA, of course, our Japanese partners, and the SpaceX team led by Elon Musk and Gwen Shotwell. The energy in the room is palpable, and it is a tremendous accomplishment for our country and for humankind as we begin the next significant step towards the commercialization, in this case, of low Earth orbit. You know, this launch is another major milestone in space transportation. It's a culmination of a lot of hard work from a lot of people in government and industry, all working closely together. It's also the first FAA-licensed orbital human spaceflight launch. Our job in this mission is to protect public safety, property, and national security, and we've done that. We'll continue to work with the commercial space industry and NASA to ensure that we continue to meet these priorities. And we'll continue our efforts to help make the airspace system more flexible and dynamic so we can support the expected increase in space operations in the coming years. As a matter of fact, I received a text from our FAA Command Center just outside Washington, D.C. that we released the airspace for commercial traffic within 20 minutes of the launch. And we continue to refine our capabilities there. So it's a pleasure to be with you tonight. And again, congratulations to everyone on a successful start to a great mission.
Gwen?
Thanks, Bettina. I'm thrilled to be here today. I want to make sure I get all the thank yous. Thanks to NASA to start with for the partnership that we've had. This journey began really in August of 2006 when we first started working on Dragon and Falcon 9 together. So thank you for your partnership. Kathy, we've been working together for quite some time, since then, actually, from the beginning. I want to thank the 45th Space Wing, another mission partner here. I want to thank the FAA. Steve, appreciate all your support. And Sasaki-san, I wanted to thank you as well for both coming and participating, but also for allowing Soichi to fly on a Dragon. I want to thank SpaceX employees who have worked tirelessly, hard and tirelessly, through pretty extraordinary times. They continue to amaze me, and I'm so proud of them. So I wanted to thank them for that as well. Could not be more proud of the work that we've all done together here today. Falcon 9 the launch looked beautiful. I don't have any specifics on any anomalies that we had, which is great. We'll get more data as we go. Dragon was dropped off roughly 12 minutes into the mission into a beautiful orbit, and she's operating just fine, all systems nominal. Executed a burn, and I think there's 2 more to go. We approach the space station in a little over 24 hours from now, and then we'll be able to breathe a sigh of relief 26 or so hours from now, once we hand the crew over to NASA. In the next 15 months, we should be flying roughly 7 Dragon missions, and this mission represents the initiation of a Dragon in orbit continuously, knocking on wood, and certainly is really the beginning of a new era in human spaceflight. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you all. I know that I could speak for millions that are just really excited to see these 4 astronauts on the Crew Dragon Resilience and get to the International Space Station for this important mission. So with that, we'll take some questions. Our first question is from Marsha Dunn.
Hello?
Yes, Marsha, we can hear you.
Yes, great. Hi, for Ms. Shotwell, please. I'm curious, how wired into the launch was Elon? Was he backseat driving, so to speak? And curious as to where he actually monitored all the action from. Thank you.
So Elon was tied in very closely to the launch. I have a series of texts to prove it. As usual, regardless of where he is on the planet, he is watching closely and providing guidance and support.
Great. Our next question comes from Michael Sheets from CNBC.
Hi, my first question is for Gwen. SpaceX has really broken a new ceiling here in terms of doing something that only countries had done before. How many other companies do you see entering the orbital human spaceflight market in the next decade and kind of following in your footsteps now that you guys have done it?
You know, I'm a horrible predictor. I never get it right. So I think what you can count on is what I say won't be right. Obviously, we expect to have flights from Boeing upcoming, but I don't think you're asking about the existing providers. I think you're talking about new ones. This is a tough business to break into. I wouldn't expect any in the next 5 years, but hopefully within 10, there'll be plenty of folks doing this kind of work to make it more accessible to more folks.
Our next question comes from Eric Berger from Ars Technica.
Hi, congratulations everyone. Such a big night for human spaceflight. I think this is a question for Kathy, but if someone else wants to take it, that's fine too. Going back to yesterday's 24-hour delay, it's my understanding the primary driver of that was the fact that the drone ship couldn't get out of port due to Tropical Storm Eta. And I was just wondering, a few years ago, Kathy, could you imagine, scrubbing or holding a launch for a day, to recover the first stage of a rocket?
No, but we were also, I think a few years ago, weren't looking at the cadence that we had and trying to be as cost effective on our services going forward, right? This has been a horrendous years for storms. I don't think if you would have asked me a few years ago if we would have had, 5 storms hit the Louisiana coast and another set hit me, a couple hitting Florida in November, I would have been surprised too. But, with the systems that we have, there's constraints and big choices. And one of those choices was we had a beautiful opportunity on Sunday. And so that was a big part of the conversation and us deciding to pick this day. Yesterday, it ended up not being that great a day around the launch time. So this was a great day, and it was a great launch. And it was an amazing experience.
Yeah. It was a really incredible experience. I think all of us are still excited about seeing it. Our next question comes from Irene Klotz from Aviation Week.
Thanks, Bettina. Congratulations, everyone. My question is for Gwen. The 15 months, 7 Dragons, are you counting commercial missions in that? And can you give us an update on where you stand on the commercial flights, aside from, I think, the Axiom mission was now officially on the books for the end of next year. Is there anything else? Thanks.
So I believe we did count one commercial mission in there, but I don't want to do math in public. I will call you if I got that one wrong. We'll be flying the Crew-2 mission in about 4.5 months, and then Crew-3 roughly, possibly 6 months later. We do hope to fly a commercial mission with Axiom, and maybe some other fun missions, which I'll chat about later.
Our next question comes from David Curley.
Gwen Shotwell, kind of curious about what happened to your emotions when they had to reopen the hatch. And can you explain to me the technology? I think we're all kind of used to a hatch closing. You crank the wheel and it's closed. It seems to be a little bit longer process. I don't understand everything that you've got going there, but can you just kind of talk about the hatch and what happened?
So I'm not sure I heard you. If you're asking about the do-over on the hatch operation that we had today? So we closed the hatch the first time, and the capsule did not pass its leak checks. So we opened it and took a look at the seals, found a little bit of FOD, cleaned that up, adjusted the seals, and reclosed the hatch. And the Dragon capsule passed its leak check.
Okay.
You probably need to make that operation a little smoother, but we got it done.
Thank you, Gwen. Our next question comes from Jeff Faust.
Hi, question for either Gwen or Kathy. There were some alerts after Crew Dragon made it to orbit about the thermal control system. It looks like that was resolved, but was that just a false alarm, or was that an actual issue with the thermal control system that has since been corrected? Thanks.
Well, what's amazing in the first hour of flight is kind of all the systems are activated, right? And so the fault detection systems are working, and what happened was it hit a fitter, and that happens during system startups, and it did exactly what it was supposed to do. It flipped over to the second leg. We have a lot of redundancy in the system, and then the team was able to go in and ended up clearing the faults, and both legs are back up and running. So this is not it's not an unusual thing to happen when systems are started up like this. We go through the launch, and then we kind of hang out for that first hour of Dragon activation, because it kind of is an amazing thing, and it goes through and checks out all the different parts of it, and it gives us a good health check for the way the spacecraft's working. And like Gwen said, Dragon's flying beautifully right now.
Thank you both. Our next question comes from Joey Roulette, Reuters.
Hey, thanks, Bettina. Question for Kathy. I just wanted to follow up on that. Can you kind of give us a sense of what happened with the thermal control system? And for Gwen, how many private astronaut missions do you guys have booked up right now? Can you give us like a ballpark on maybe how much you're in talks for, or how much you have solidified? Thanks.
Well, sometimes it's just a sensor issue, right? And it's just a startup sensor getting everything aligned. And so actually, nothing really happened to the system. It was kind of just a function of kind of running through. And when you have all these checks and your system's doing all the checks, sometimes it'll hit a limit and then flip over, and then you reset the pieces of it. And so actually we have 2 good loops now, and the system's working great. So like I said, it's just a little bit of a startup glitch.
Thank you. Paul Brinkman, UPI, is our next reporter. Paul?
Yeah, thanks. I'm really thinking about the astronauts in space now, and poor people trying to sleep after launching on a rocket and flying around the Earth on a new spacecraft. My understanding is the flight time tonight apparently was extended, partly for their sleep time, and we've heard how important it is that they get proper sleep. But I'm thinking that must be kind of a challenge. So I guess, Kathy or Gwen, could you talk a little bit about how well astronauts sleep in space, and is it a really peaceful ride aboard Dragon now as it's cruising in orbit, or is there a lights out rule or a no talking rule? Thanks.
Well, they do have little curtains that they cover the windows, and they do get out of their suits and get comfortable and lay down. And you have to realize too, you're in 0G too, right? So you're in a little bit different position. These are experienced crew members, and they know that they've got to get their rest and work through them. And so the other really great thing is you can watch them, because there'll be a lot of NASA coverage of the mission over this next 26 hours. So you'll be able to see the crew during different activities, not while they're sleeping, but doing other activities, and so you'll be able to watch along what they do. These folks know what they're doing. They're very experienced. They know that they got to get their rest so that they can do the sequence of events that are coming up for docking as safely as possible.
Yeah. Still would be really hard to sleep right now. I'd be really excited.
They were having a lot of fun. If you notice them, you guys need to watch them. They were actually, this crew was, they were there, and they were enjoying being in space again.
Yeah, what an experience. Our next question comes from Stephen Clark.
Hi, congratulations, Stephen Clark from Spaceflight Now. Just wanted to clarify one thing from Gwen, the 7 Dragon missions in the next 15 months, I think you said. Do those include the cargo missions, or are those all crew missions? And also, I wanted to get an update on your Crew Dragon production line. How many Crew Dragons are currently being built? Do you have 2 that have launched now? Do you have any other Crew Dragons being assembled right now, or will you be doing your near-term missions with these 2 vehicles? Thanks.
Yeah, so I was hedging a little bit. I did check my phone, and the 7 missions I was talking about were all for NASA, CRS 21 through 24, and 3 crew missions. But I was hedging just in case one of those doesn't go, to include a commercial mission between now and then. And then the other question you asked was there a second part? Oh, how many Dragons in production? Thanks, Steve. You want to? So we have the Demo 2 Dragon is in the refurbishment process to fly Crew-2. There's a Dragon capsule. Well, there's also the CRS 21 capsule. I think there's 2 more cargo capsules after that, and we will have 3 additional Crew Dragon capsules, I believe. And they're all to some extent in production right now.
Okay. So our next question comes from David Mosier of Business Insider.
Thank you for taking my question. Kathy, I understand this docking will be fully automated that's coming up, but is there anything, any step you're particularly concerned about or will be watching closely? And Gwen, you mentioned some anomaly data. Maybe I misheard you, but is there anything SpaceX and NASA saw during launch or is seeing in orbit that needs further investigating? Thanks.
So the Dragon is designed to have an automated docking, and right now all the systems are working, and so we're not expecting there to be any issues with the docking. And obviously, you know, that they'll be checking out the systems as they get near station, and they check all the different sensor suites and make sure that things are functioning. And then the crew is also trained on being able to do some kind of backup maneuvers too. But right now we're not expecting any issues, and I'm sure docking tomorrow will go smoothly.
Great. So, wanted to get one more question for Hiroshi Sasaki. We know that this mission had a lot of great milestones. Not only is it the first crew rotation from a commercial space vehicle, but also you're carrying the first international astronaut on this mission. What is next for JAXA in the future?
Next astronauts. Currently, we want to send astronaut Hoshide. I will currently on the Crew-Dragon 2. He will. I hope he will become the ISS commander.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, we're gonna start wrapping up this press conference. But before we do that, I'd like to turn it over to Administrator Breitstein for some closing remarks.
Well, sure. I think what we've seen today is really remarkable. So much work by so many people over a sustained period of time. Again, thank you to SpaceX and Gwen Shotwell and Elon Musk for being an amazing partner to NASA for all of these years. I think it's also important to recognize Kathy Leaders, who was very involved in the commercial resupply program. Which then led to the development of a commercial crew program. And of course, Kathy has done amazing work through both of those programs, getting us to where we are as an agency now with commercial crew, and doing such an amazing job that we decided to put her in charge of all human spaceflight for NASA. So she's now responsible for getting us to the moon and onto Mars. So just want to say to Kathy Leaders, NASA is so grateful for all of your leadership for all of these years, and I can't wait to see the amazing things that you and the team do in the future. I also want to thank our friends from Japan. Again, there is no better partner to the United States of America when it comes to space exploration than the nation of Japan. JAXA has been with us for a very, very long time. They will be with us. You will be with us for a long time into the future. When we think about the Artemis program, we thank you for your commitment to the Artemis program, for a sustainable return to the moon, and of course, eventually missions to Mars. And Japan has been an amazing partner, so thank you. And of course, for this mission, so unique in that we are now going into basically operational missions that are commercial in nature, where NASA is a customer. Our goal has been and will be to be one customer of many customers in a very robust commercial marketplace in low Earth orbit. But we also want to have numerous providers that are competing on cost and innovation, and of course, safety. We've seen amazing work from SpaceX already. There's more coming from Boeing. But I think this ecosystem, this very virtuous cycle of continuous development is going to pay benefits to the American taxpayer and space exploration. And as these missions go forward and we get more and more into the commercial aspects of it, the FAA is going to continue to be a critical partner. And we're grateful to the leadership there at the FAA for licensing this launch and moving us forward as a nation into this new era of commercial human spaceflight into orbital space. So, so many amazing things on this flight. As Kathy said earlier, it is not over. This was a beautiful launch, and we are all very excited about the launch. But remember, this is a 6-month mission, and it's the first of many. And I will tell you that we use the word operational. Make no mistake, when you're flying into space, it is always there's always risk, and we will always be diligent. And we have all the confidence in the world in SpaceX and in the NASA team, in our partners, international partners, FAA, and of course Boeing upcoming, which is going to be exciting. So I'm just very, very thrilled about how today went and look forward to so many great days in the future.
Thank you, Jim. So stay with us. We have lots of exciting news. As we've mentioned, we'll be having live continuous coverage on NASA television through docking, which will happen at 11 p.m. Tomorrow. And we'll also, of course, have the welcome ceremony. You can get all this information and lots more at nasa.gov. Again, nasa.gov, and you can watch the live broadcast on NASA TV. So thank you so much for joining us, and have a good night.
Here's our first live look inside the suit-up room. Crew Dragon Commander Mike Hopkins was born in Lebanon, Missouri.
Pilot Victor Glover is a native of Pomona, California.
And Mission Specialist Shannon Walker is from Houston, Texas.
Mission Specialist Soichi Noguchi is from Yokohama, Kanagawa, Japan.
Here they come, walking down the hall.
Everyone's looking quite peppy there.
Yeah, so cool. They're looking for people. They're looking for the people that have helped them all along the way, too, and want to make eye contact.
Here they come, the Crew-1 astronauts now beginning their journey to the launch pad ahead of this historic mission to the International Space Station.
This is Cora on countdown 1 for timeline. The crew departing for the pad on schedule.
This is chase car, so you can be along with the crew every step of the way.
It's kind of like the pre-flight, right? To walk around your vehicle before you get in and fly.
I love this shot. You know, when this was being designed, it was definitely a forward-thinking design.
And you can see on your screen the crew beginning the ingress process already.
They are checking to make sure the suits are ready. They're helping them connect the umbilicals. They're buckling them in.
And Dragon SpaceX hatches closed.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Not even gravity contains humanity as we explore as one for all. Absolutely wanted here. Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
What you're seeing right now on your screen is a live view from Dragon Resilience right now, looking back at Earth. What an awesome view. This is just us being able to see it from the camera, but the crew is getting that live right now.
Yeah, and they launched at 7:27 p.m. Eastern, so it's been a couple of hours now that they've been in low Earth orbit. As we said earlier, it's a 27-hour journey this time for them to the International Space Station, and they are in between burns. There's not another burn scheduled until tomorrow morning, the boost burn. We had the successful phase burn earlier tonight, but the crew are out of their suits, perhaps have enjoyed their meal for the evening, and in a few hours they'll be getting into their sleep period, but for right now I think they're probably just enjoying time together and in their new spacecraft, as the Corps encouraged them to do.
And they did mention a few minutes ago that they needed about 20 more minutes, so maybe under 20 minutes we might get a live view inside of the capsule for now, we've got this exterior camera view on Dragon of Earth as it's coasting towards the International Space Station.
We're not going anywhere. We are continuing to listen into the loops or the nets for all the calls that Core is making to the crew and anything that you should be aware of. We're just enjoying these views for right now, and we will be standing by.